My name's Jacob Miller, 24 years old, and I'm the guy who thought he could fix his family with a fat check. Spoiler, it didn't work. Let me take you back to last summer, July 12, 2024, when I handed my 48-year-old dad, Hank, a $15,000 check for his birthday. I'd been saving up from my online gig, dropshipping, mostly, with some side hustles in graphic design. I worked from my beat-up desk in a one-bedroom apartment, staring at a laptop screen all day. To me, that money was a big deal. To Dad, it was kindling. We were at his birthday cookout, a sweaty afternoon in our patchy backyard in Dayton, Ohio. Ribs sizzling on the grill, my Uncle Ray cracking beers, and my little sister, Callie, 19, chasing her dumb mutt around. I figured it was the perfect moment. Dad, I said, handing him the envelope with a grin, this is for you. Happy birthday. He took it, popped it open, and squinted at the numbers. Then he snorted, like a full-on hog snort, and tore it in half right there. You think I'm some charity case, Jake? He barked, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I don't need your pity cash. My gut twisted. I stammered. It's not pity, Dad. I just wanted to. He cut me off, tossing the pieces at my feet. Save it. You can't buy me off with your computer nonsense. My mom, Linda, was flipping burgers nearby. She didn't even look up, just chuckled under her breath and said, yeah, we're good without handouts from a screen jockey. Callie smirked, too, like it was some big joke. The whole yard went quiet except for the dog yapping. I stood there, face burning, feeling like a clown who forgot his lines. See, I grew up dirt poor. Not, no new sneakers poor. More like mac and cheese for a week straight, praying the gas doesn't get cut poor. Dad was a welder, hands calloused and back bent from years at the steel plant. He'd come home smelling like metal and sweat, and I'd look at him like he was Superman. He drilled one thing into me growing up. A man's worth ain't in his wallet, Jacob. It's in his grit. I bought that hook, line, and sinker until I started making money online. It kicked off small. I was 20, still living at home, when I made my first $500 selling phone cases online. I ran to Dad, all excited. Look at this, I said, waving my phone. He barely glanced up from his recliner. Sounds like a hustle that'll dry up, he grunted. I shrugged it off. But then the cash kept coming. $5,000 one month, $10,000 the next. By 23, I was pulling six figures a year, more than Dad ever dreamed of. I didn't rub it in. Hell, I stayed home longer than I should have, helping out. Paid the electric bill when it was overdue, stocked the fridge, even fixed Mom's leaky car radiator. I wasn't fishing for a medal, just figured that's what you do when you love your people. But the more I pitched in, the more Dad acted like I was spitting in his face. When you gonna get a real job, Jake? He'd say, eyeing me over his coffee. All that clicking and typing ain't work. Real men build stuff. Callie started chiming in, too. Must be nice, just sitting there making bank, she'd tease. Mom never backed me up, just gave me this thin smile, like she was embarrassed for me. It stung, but I kept at it, thinking they'd come around. That birthday check, though? That was my breaking point. Standing there with those torn-up pieces, I realized something. They didn't see me as their kid anymore. I was just a cash machine they could kick when it suited them. After Dad ripped up that $15,000 check at his birthday cookout, I didn't storm off right away. Nah, I'm not that dramatic. I just picked up the pieces, stuffed them in my pocket, and grabbed a beer like nothing happened. Inside, though, I was boiling. That night, I sat on the sagging couch in our living room, replaying it over and over. Dad laughing in my face. Mom's snarky screen jockey jab. Callie's smirk. I kept thinking, what the hell did I do wrong? I'd spent years trying to prove I wasn't some slacker, and they still treated me like I was cheating at life. The next morning, I decided to test the waters. Dad was at the kitchen table, nursing black coffee, grease stains still on his knuckles from fiddling with his old Ford in the garage. Hey, Dad, I said, casual as I could muster. You sure you don't want me to cash that check? Could help with the truck, or whatever. He didn't even look up. Told you, Jake. I don't take handouts. Especially not from some internet gimmick. That word, gimmick, hit me like a slap. I'd built a whole business, paid our bills, and he still saw it as a fluke. I nodded, grabbed my keys, and headed to my room. That's when I started pulling back. For months, I'd been covering stuff quietly. The water bill when it spiked. Groceries when Mom's cashier gig at Walmart didn't stretch far enough. Hell, I even paid off Callie's phone when she racked up a $200 data overage watching TikToks. I never bragged about it, just did it because we'd always scraped by together. But after that birthday fiasco, I stopped. Cold turkey. No more Venmo transfers, no more, I got this. I wanted to see what had happened if I quit playing their safety net. At first, they didn't notice. Dad kept welding, Mom kept ringing up groceries, Callie kept scrolling. But about 3 weeks later, the cracks showed. I came home from a coffee shop, where I'd been working on a new store launch, to find Mom pacing the kitchen, phone in hand. Jake, the electric's late again, she said, voice tight. They're giving us till Friday. I leaned against the counter, sipping my iced coffee. Yeah? That's rough. You call him. She blinked, like I'd grown a second head. Well, I thought I cut her off. Not this time, Mom. You and Dad got it, right? She stared, then huffed and walked off muttering something about ungrateful kids. Dad caught wind of it that night. He cornered me in the hallway, still in his work boots. What's this I hear about you not helping your mom? He growled. I crossed my arms. I've been helping for years, Dad. Figured it's time you two took the wheel. His eyes narrowed. You think you're too good for us now, huh? Making your fancy money, sitting on your ass all day. There it was again, that dig at my work. I kept my voice steady. I think I'm tired of being your punching bag. That's all. He snorted, shook his head, and stomped off. I heard him tell Mom later, kid's lost his damn mind. Callie was the next domino. She burst into my room a week later, waving her phone. Jake, they cut my data. I need, like, $150 to turn it back on. I didn't look up from my laptop. Sounds like a you problem, Cal. She stomped her foot, actually stomped it, like a toddler. You're seriously gonna let me go dark? After everything? I laughed, cold and sharp. Everything? You mean you snickering at me while Dad trashed my gift? Yeah, I'm good. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. That's when the resentment really sank in. I'd idolized Dad growing up, his grit, his long shifts, the way he'd still toss a football with me even when he was dead tired. But now? He couldn't stand that I'd found a different path. Mom played along because it was easier than admitting they needed me. And Callie, she just wanted the perks without the gratitude. I started wondering if they'd ever seen me as family, or just a ticket out of their mess. 3 months after the check incident, I was done pretending. I packed my stuff, laptop, clothes, a couple books, and moved into my own place across town. They didn't even say goodbye. But the real storm was still coming. So, I moved out. October 2024, crisp leaves crunching under my boots as I hauled my last box into a little rental on the east side of Dayton. It wasn't much, a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a view of a gas station, but it was mine. No more tiptoeing around Dad's temper or Mom's guilt trips. I set up my desk, plugged in my laptop, and got back to work. For the first time in forever, I felt light. No one was breathing down my neck, calling my job a gimmick. I thought cutting the cord would be the end of it. Man, was I wrong. About a month in, my phone started buzzing. I'd been ignoring texts from Mom, stuff like, you left your old jacket here, or Callie misses you. Real subtle bait, you know? But this time, it was Dad. 5 missed calls in a row. I stared at the screen, gut churning, then let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, a text, pick up, Jacob. Now. I sighed, figuring I'd better rip the Band-Aid off. I called him back. Jake, he barked the second he answered. You think this is a game? No hello, no nothing, just straight into it. I leaned back in my chair, already tired. What's up, Dad? He huffed, loud and pissed. What's up? The heat's out. Furnace crapped out last night, and we're freezing our asses off over here. You happy now? I frowned. Sorry to hear that. Did you call a repair guy? He laughed, but it was mean. Oh, you're a real comedian. You know damn well we can't afford that. You were the one handling shit like this. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the headache coming. I handled it when I lived there, yeah, but I'm not your fix-it guy anymore. He went quiet, then his voice dropped low. So that's it? You're just gonna let your family shiver because you're mad about some birthday bullshit. There it was, the twist of the knife. I took a deep breath. Dad, you've got a job. Mom's got a job. Figure it out. Mom's voice cut in from the background, shrill and shaky. It's 40 degrees in here, Jacob. You want us to get sick? I gritted my teeth. Call the landlord. Get a space heater. I don't know, Mom. People manage. Dad snapped back. We managed just fine when you weren't playing big shot. Now you're sitting pretty while we're screwed. Real classy, kid. I laughed, couldn't help it. Classy? Like when you tore up my check in front of everybody. Or when you said my work's not real because I don't weld steel. Silence. Then he growled, you're a selfish little punk. You know that? I hung up. Didn't even say goodbye. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't caving. The calls didn't stop. Next day, Callie tried her luck. Jake, come on, she whined. Dad's pissed, Mom's crying, and I'm stuck listening to it. Just help with the furnace, please. I kept my tone flat. Not my house, not my problem. She groaned. You're such a dick now. What happened to you? I almost laughed again. What happened? You all happened. I'm done. She hung up on me the time. A week later, Mom left a voicemail. Her voice was softer, almost broken. Jake, we're falling behind. The furnace guy came, but we owe $800. Rent's late, too. I know you're upset, but we're your family. Doesn't that mean anything? I sat there, listening to it twice, feeling that old tug in my chest. Growing up, I'd seen her cry over bills plenty, huddled at the kitchen table, whispering so me and Callie wouldn't hear. Back then, I'd sworn I'd make it right someday. And I did, didn't I? Paid their way for years. But all I got was grief for it. I didn't call back. Instead, I turned off my phone and went, my name's Jacob Miller, 24 years old, and I'm the guy who thought he could fix his family with a fat check. Spoiler, it didn't work. Let me take you back to last summer, July 12th, 2024, when I handed my 48-year-old dad, Hank, a $15,000 check for his birthday. I'd been saving up from my online gig, dropshipping, mostly, with some side hustles in graphic design. I worked from my beat-up desk It was mid-November 2024, about 6 weeks after I'd moved out, when things went from annoying to flat-out wild. I'd gotten pretty good at dodging the family's calls, mom's guilt trips, Callie's whining, dad's shouting matches. My phone was basically a brick unless it was a client pinging me about a shipment. I was settling into my new life, grinding away at my online stores, even treating myself to a new coffee maker. Then dad showed up at my door, and everything flipped upside down. I just finished a late-night work session, pushing a Black Friday sale for some winter gear, when I heard the knock. It was past 10, cold as hell outside, and I wasn't expecting anybody. I shuffled to the door in my socks, peeked through the blinds, and there he was, Hank Miller, standing on my rickety porch, breath fogging in the air. He looked rough, coat patched up, beard scruffier than usual. I cracked the door, keeping the chain on. Dad? What are you doing here? He didn't waste time. Let me in, Jake. We gotta talk. His voice was gravelly, but it wasn't mad, more like worn out. I hesitated, then unhooked the chain and stepped back. He walked in, hands shoved in his pockets, and glanced around my place. Nice setup, he muttered, eyeing my desk with the dual monitors. Guess you're doing all right. I crossed my arms. Yeah, I'm fine. What's this about? He didn't sit, just stood there, shifting his weight like he didn't want to be here any more than I did. House is in trouble, he said finally. Bank's calling every day. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. They're saying foreclosure if we don't cough up $10,000 by the end of the month. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. He stared back, eyes hard but tired. I need your help, Jacob. One time. That's it. My jaw tightened. Help how? He shrugged, like it was obvious. Money. You've got it. We don't. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my cool. So, you drove across town at night to ask me for cash? After everything? He bristled. Not asking for a handout. I'll pay you back. I just need a bridge till I get steady work again. I raised an eyebrow. Again? What happened to the plant? He looked away, rubbing his neck. Layoffs. Been out 2 weeks. Haven't told your mom yet. She's already losing it over the bills. That hit me. Dad without a job? The guy who'd work doubles just to keep us afloat? I almost felt bad, almost. Then I remembered the birthday, the gimmick, jabs, the way he'd sneered at my whole life. Dad, I said, slow and clear, I'm not a bank. You made it real damn clear you don't respect what I do. Why should I bail you out now? His face darkened. Because I'm your father, Jake. Because we're family. That house, it's where you grew up. You gonna let it go just to spite me? I laughed, sharp and bitter. Spite? You think this is about spite? You laughed at me, Dad. Threw up my money like it was trash. Called me selfish when I stopped paying your way. And now you're here, hat in hand, because you've got no one else to turn to. He stepped closer, voice low. I was wrong, all right? I shouldn't have done that. But this ain't about pride anymore. It's about survival. I didn't budge. Survival's what I've been doing, keeping you all afloat while you kicked me for it. I'm done, Dad. You figure this one out. His eyes flashed, and for a second, I thought he might swing. Instead, he clenched his fists and nodded, real slow. Fine. You're making a mistake, son. You'll see. He turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I locked it behind him, heart pounding, and sank into my chair. The next morning, Mom called. Your father said you wouldn't help, she whispered, like she was scared to say it out loud. Jake, they're gonna take the house. Everything we've got. I pinched the bridge of my nose. He asked. I said no. That's it. She sobbed, soft and pitiful. How can you be so cold? We raised you. I swallowed hard. You raised me to stand up for myself, Mom. That's what I'm doing. She hung up, and I knew then, they weren't letting this go easy. Dad's visit wasn't the end. It was just the start of the war. Dad's late-night visit left me rattled, but I wasn't backing down. November dragged into December 2024, and the calls kept coming, Mom pleading, Callie cursing me out, Dad leaving voicemails that swung between guilt trips and threats. You're killing us, Jake, he said in one. Hope you sleep good knowing that. I didn't. Sleep was a mess, my head spinning with memories of that house, Christmas lights flickering on our porch, me and Callie building snowmen in the yard. But every time I softened, I'd hear Dad's laugh from that birthday, see Mom smirk, and I'd steel myself again. Then, a week before Christmas, Callie showed up. I was frying eggs in my tiny kitchen when the doorbell buzzed. There she was, bundled in a puffy coat, holding a cardboard box. Hey, she said, shifting awkwardly. Can I come in? I nodded, curious despite myself. She set the box on my counter and pulled out a chipped ceramic mug, one I'd painted in 3rd grade, all sloppy stars and Best Dad in crooked letters. Found this in the attic, she said. Thought you might want it. I took it, running my thumb over the cracks. What's this about, Cal? She sighed, peeling off her gloves. House is gone. Bank took it yesterday. Mom's a wreck. Dad's drinking again. I moved in with my boyfriend, but they're crashing at Aunt Sue's till they figure something out. My stomach dropped. I'd known it was coming, but hearing it hit different. Why tell me now? She shrugged. Because I'm sorry, Jake. I was a jerk. We all were. I didn't get how hard you worked till it was too late. I stared at her, waiting for the catch. You're not here for money? She shook her head. No. Just wanted you to know I don't hate you. And maybe we could talk sometime. Without all the bullshit. I didn't know what to say. Callie'd always been Dad's echo, quick to jab at me. This felt real, though, raw, like she'd finally seen past the family script. Okay, I said finally. We'll see. She gave a small smile, grabbed her coat, and left. I stood there holding that mug, feeling a crack in my armor I hadn't expected. Christmas Eve, I got a text from Mom. We're at Sue's. Please come by tomorrow. Just to see us. I almost deleted it, but Callie's visit stuck with me. Maybe there was a chance to salvage something, not the house, but us. Against my better judgment, I drove over the next day. Aunt Sue's place was a cramped ranch house, stuffed with cousins and cigarette smoke. Mom hugged me tight, eyes red. Dad was in the corner, nursing a whiskey, but he nodded when I walked in. No words, just a look. We ate ham and mashed potatoes, talked about nothing important. No one mentioned the house or money. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. I left feeling lighter, not fixed, but like maybe we weren't done for good. Callie texted me later. Thanks for showing up. I replied, yeah, you too. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was something. New Year's came and went, and 2025 kicked off with me back in my grind, tweaking my stores, banking steady cash. The Christmas truce with the family held, sort of. Mom called sometimes, just to chat. Callie and I grabbed coffee once, catching up like actual siblings. Dad stayed quiet, but he hadn't blown up my phone either. I figured we'd hit a weird stalemate, until February, when Mom dropped the bomb. I was on my couch, scrolling X, when she called. Jake, she said, voice shaky, your dad's got an idea. Can we meet? I groaned but agreed. We met at a diner, me, Mom, and Dad, squeezed into a vinyl booth. Dad looked older, bags under his eyes, but he sat up straight. I'm starting a side gig, he said, cutting to it. Fixing up old cars. Got a buddy with a garage, but I need a loan to get it going, tools, parts, a beater to flip. I sipped my coffee, waiting. How much? He cleared his throat. $5,000. I'll pay you back, Jake. Monthly. I mean it. Mom chimed in, he's serious this time. It's a fresh start. I leaned back, skeptical. And if you don't? Dad met my eyes. You keep the truck. Title's yours till I'm square. Collateral. That threw me. His Ford was his pride, rusty as it was. He was putting skin in the game. I thought it over. Last time I'd helped, it was blind faith got me burned. This felt different, concrete. All right, I said. But we write it up. Legal, signed. No bullshit. And if you miss a payment, I take the truck. No whining. Dad nodded, jaw tight. Deal. Mom smiled, hopeful. We shook on it, and I felt a flicker of something, trust, maybe, or just dumb optimism. I wired the $5,000 that week, papers notarized and all. Dad bought a dented Chevy to fix up, and for a while, it worked. He sent $200 the first month, right on time. I drive by the garage sometimes, see him sanding metal, grease up to his elbows. Mom said he was whistling again, like the old days. Callie even pitched in, taking pics of the cars for ads. It wasn't riches, but it was progress. I started thinking maybe Dad had turned a corner, till April, when the second payment didn't come. I called him. Where's the money, Dad? He sighed. Sold the Chevy, but the next one's taking longer. Give me a week. A week turned into 3. I showed up at the garage, found him tinkering, but no cash in sight. I'm close, Jake, he said. Just hang on. I didn't yell, just took the truck keys from his bench. We had a deal. He didn't fight, just handed them over, head down. I drove off, his truck rattling behind me, feeling like I'd won and lost at once. Taking Dad's truck in April 2025 didn't feel good, but it felt fair. I parked it behind my place, a clunky reminder of where we stood. He called once after, voice flat. You didn't have to do that, Jake. I kept it short. You didn't have to break your word. That was it, no blowout, no begging. Mom texted, he's trying, but I didn't bite. I'd given them a shot. They'd fumbled it. I sold the truck for $3,000, recouped some cash, and moved on. Summer rolled in, and I leaned hard into my work. Business boomed, hit $200,000 by July, enough to upgrade my apartment to a 2-bedroom with a real office. Callie kept in touch, though. She'd moved out of her boyfriend's place, got a job at a bakery, and started texting me dumb memes. One day she called. Dad's still flipping cars, slow but steady. Mom's picking up extra shifts. They're okay, not great, but okay. I nodded to myself. Good for them. She paused. You ever gonna talk to them again? I thought about it. Dad's hands on a wrench, Mom's tired smile. Maybe, I said. When I'm ready. She didn't push. We met up sometimes after that. Burgers, movies, no heavy stuff. She never asked for money, just company. It was enough. By fall, I heard through Callie they'd rented a small place, no foreclosure hanging over them. Dad sent a text in October, paid off a debt today. Thought you'd like to know. I didn't reply, but I smiled. They were clawing back, and I was building my own life, separate, but not bitter. I'd lost the house, the blind loyalty, but I'd gained something better. Me. And that's where I left it. Door cracked open, but on my terms.